Well, tell us the interesting way that your family was formed.
Okay, so my husband and I got married after I finished college, and then he was already at Truett Seminary. I followed. I had been at Truett for a year. We had been married for about a year and a half when two kids moved in. We didn't know that they had moved in at that time, so we picked them up from school. They had some family issues and had no one to take care of them from Wednesday to Sunday. The family needed some help, so we agreed to help. So we picked them up Wednesday.
And wasn't this your apartment manager's relatives?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So we were living in graduate housing. Our apartment manager had her nephews living with her for about 8 months, and
so you had met them.
Mm-hmm, yes, we already knew them.
Formed a relationship.
Mm-hmm, we would play basketball with them during that time, take them swimming, school shopping, whatever, just to help her out.
And how old were they at the time?
They were when they moved in. They were Brandon was 10 and David was 18 months. So, and I had no idea what 18 months meant. I just knew it was little. And now I'm realizing even more how little he was.
Uh-huh.
So we picked him up from school and took them with us to church that afternoon, which was, I think, a big deal. I mean, we could have made the decision just to pick him up and stay home, cancel youth or whatever for the night, try to adjust, but no, we took them straight to church. So their very first night with us was at church.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and Brandon thankfully fell in love with it. He loved it, so that made it even better. So, and then we took them home and got them ready for bed and realized we don't have any clothes for the next day. Oh, you need lunch money. Whoa, okay, so wait a minute, you have to go to school with diapers? So then it was a late night Walmart run. Got them clothes for the next few days and everything else needed. And so then Sunday, their aunt texted me, and this was not my apartment manager, this was her sister. She texted me and said, I'm on my way to get them, and we just weren't ready to let them go. They had definitely shown signs of neglect in that placement with her. Not maybe, I don't know, I maybe not intentionally, but just I knew that the home environment was not very good for them. Mm-hmm. So we told her, we said, hey, we could keep them for another week. And then the next week she texted us, we can keep them for another week if that helps. And we could do it another week and another week. And so the next thing we know, it's...
They never moved out.
3 months down the road. And so... we met with the parents and talked to them about the situation, and they agreed to let us have custody, managerial conservatorship, which just means we're their guardians. So if something medically happened, we could do something about it. We could sign their school papers and all kinds of other stuff. So, and then that next summer, they went with us to Greece, spent 2 months in Greece for an internship. And that's really where we kind of congealed as a family. It was really hard, but made it through. And so, yeah, and then in 2013, we adopted. And so now they're our sons. So
back when they first moved in, why were y'all saying we can keep them for another week, we can keep them for another week? I mean, yeah, you were in agreement, you and Clint both. And was it out of fear of where they would go back to?
Well, we just weren't sure if we knew the family had hesitations about them moving in with us. So if we had just straight up said, hey, we can keep them, then they probably would have come and pulled them out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we were putting it in a way of, do you need our help? We can help.
Mm-hmm. But the whole time in the back of your minds, was adoption at some point?
Well, okay, so before we picked them up, Clint and I had already discussed this somewhat, because 30 days before we had picked them up, we had offered to take the kids, and the family said no.
Okay.
So then they had gone to live with this aunt that we picked them up from. And they had been involved in a CPS case that was closed during that 30 days. So we knew that they had some hesitations. Also, their mom was returning from where she was in December. We had gotten them October 22nd of 2010. So just in a couple of months, she was coming back, and we didn't know if she was going to be getting them. So there was just a whole lot of uncertainties, and we also didn't have any rights. So we just kept offering on a week-to-week basis.
But what you did know is that both of you wanted them.
Yes.
And that's maybe what you thought was the right thing to do.
Well, and so that 30 days prior, we had discussed it. Well, what are we willing to do? How far are we willing to go? And we can't take these kids in without being willing to go the entire way. Otherwise, we're no good for them. Like if we're not willing to adopt, then there's no point in them moving in here.
Right.
Just because we would be another stop for them.
Right.
And that's not fair to them. So we at that point said yes. And so my husband even contemplated and looked into putting off seminary and stopping school, getting a full-time job. And we were able to not have to do that, to be able to finish seminary and then move on from there. But
you were both very clear that this is what you should do. Now, before you even met these boys, was adoption in your discussions? Okay.
We had discussed adoption, but we just didn't realize it would be so soon.
Yeah.
A year and a half into marriage.
And so old. They were old. Their mom was old.
Yeah. Brandon was 10. My husband is basically adopted. He lost both of his parents by the time he was 9. So he's kind of already been groomed for that, and
right.
So
here they were. It was presented to you, and you were ready to go. Well, what challenges did you have when they moved in?
Oh, there's lots of challenges. Attachment disorders, senses of security, survivor mode type things. For example, Brandon would eat so much because he was afraid he wasn't going to get another meal. So he'd eat easily 3 bowls of cereal, and then he only wanted to eat ramen noodles, and so then he would eat 2 bags of ramen noodles, and he's 10 years old, and so he was very particular about what he would eat, what he wouldn't. He's very particular about whether he bathed or not, and he never wanted to bathe, so hygiene was a problem. Routine was a problem, although he wanted it.
But he also fought it.
Yeah. And so he had an expectation of how things should be done. And if it wasn't done that way, then...
Angry.
And so anger was a big problem. Also, lying, making up stories. And he knows how to stick to his guns about something.
Yeah, he had to fight. Well, in 4 years, what have you seen in terms of some of that change?
Everything. I mean, it's been, with the adoption, with, at-risk children, unfortunately, it's a really hard transformation to make, to be able to have healthy relationships, to be able to trust authority, to be able to build attachments, or how to handle attachments appropriately. All of those things are huge issues of having to break those habits or expectations or perspectives and shift it to a more healthy perspective that you would see from healthy, growing, loved children.
Right, that doesn't happen quickly.
And so for this to have happened in 5 years, I mean, I think it's all attributed to prayer, because
See, a lot of those are gone now.
Yeah, I mean, there's still subtle issues, but not nearly what we were fighting. with. And so our kids have adjusted very well.
That's
And
great.
so